It's the John Phillips Show. It's the Fix California Hour. Johnny's on vacation. He'll be back on Monday. It's Randy Wang here. The phone number to join us is 800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and search for the John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcast. Our next guest is the anchor at Fox 11 at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. He's also host of The Issue Is, which airs Friday nights on Fox 11 and Sundays on KTVU, Fox 2 in the Bay Area. Elex Michaelson, welcome back to the John Phillips Show.
Hey, Randy, good to be with you.
Well, you have had a very busy week at the Milken Institute. You were just on a panel with Karen Bass talking about the Palisades fire recovery, some of the questions that we're still trying to figure out from the fire. And I saw one clip that you posted where you asked specifically if Karen Bass has confidence in the DWP chief that she appointed, Janice Quinones, where Karen Bass started comparing her to some guy in Omaha that makes $700K, which is why she had to give him $750K.
Yeah, that's a lot of money in any job, but certainly a lot of money for a public service job at a time when the city is in $1 billion deficit and everybody's talking about potential pay cuts and layoffs for the city as well. But it's a lot of money considering the performance. There are real questions about how the LAPD performed during the fire and if that contributed to the fire being worse. We know that there were fire hydrants that did not have water at the time in Pacific Palisades when firefighters needed them. And we also know that the reservoir that is right nearby, the San Ynez Reservoir, which originally was built with the purpose of helping to fight fires, was empty. Because there was a tear in a cover and they drained it to try to do repairs on it, and the repairs did not get done before this fire happened. And so those are real questions. And there are also questions about energized lines in the area as well. And Janice Quinones is making a whole lot of money. Mayor Bass thought that the fire chief's performance was bad enough that she wanted her out of her job. But she did not say something similar when it comes to the head of the DWP.
Now, of course, this isn't the only person that Karen Bass has appointed that got a huge pay raise with disastrous results. We found out this week that the head of LASA, appointed by Karen Bass, Felicia Adams-Kellum, according to some whistleblower lawsuits, was doing a whole lot of inappropriate things in that office, including hiding information from the LA City Council about how actually effective Karen Bass's homeless program Inside Safe is.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's other questions too. There's questions about what happened with the fire department union and whether they were corrupt in the way that they were handling things. And of course, we know that several different members in recent years of the LA City Council have gone behind bars because of convictions. So, it is not a news story that there's plenty of corruption in downtown Los Angeles. And part of the challenge now in our changing media universe is there just aren't as many reporters as there used to be holding people accountable in these situations and people willing to pay for good journalism. And so some of this stuff is happening and people don't realize that it's even happening.
You did mention that the city of Los Angeles is facing a nearly $1 billion budget shortfall. Earlier in the week, you interviewed Katie Yaroslavsky, who's chair of the budget committee. And one of the things that Karen Bass put in her proposed budget is laying off hundreds of civilian workforce at LAPD, the people who work in the crime labs, which would severely hinder the performance of the LAPD. Do you think the city council has enough votes to reverse that?
It seemed like they're trying to, but I don't think that they've come to the conclusion yet of exactly what they're going to do. Look, if you got to cut $1 billion, that's a lot of money. And something is going to get cut, and it's going to be painful. You can't just hide, and especially, a lot of times they like to be bailed out by Washington. Trump administration is not going to do that for Los Angeles. They're trying to get some more money from Sacramento. Maybe the state will throw some money their way, and that could help on some of this. But the state is kind of out of money, too. So something's got to go, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And I think there's a real internal battle between the mayor and different members of the city council on what exactly that's going to be.
Well, and one of the things a lot of people are asking for is maybe this is just symbolic, but, Karen Bass was asked at an event if she would take a pay cut, and she said yes, but since then hasn't clarified how much or when.
Exactly. And then there's members of her staff, too, that I think were supposed to get raises. She's talked about that, and that those are not going to go into effect. But it's, a lot of these raises were put into place when there was a different financial reality for the city. And so people were able to, get raises. And look, it's a time we've had inflation in the last few years, and, people need cost of living adjustments in any sort of job. I know these are public service jobs, but they're also people's jobs that they use for income. So you understand some of the complications of that. But the city of Los Angeles is not the federal government. It can't print money. They have a budget, and they got to operate within it.
We're speaking with Elex Michaelson, anchor at Fox 11, host of The Issue Is, which airs Friday nights on Fox 11 and Sundays on KTVU Fox 2. You also interviewed Rick Caruso this week, and he had an interesting criticism of Karen Bass when it comes to her touting how successful the fire response has been. He doesn't like that she's trying to compare what's going on in L.A. to Paradise and other fires throughout the state when she likes to tout it that's the fastest recovery anyone has ever seen.
Yeah, his point seems to be, hopefully you can hear me. His point seems to be that, she's using metrics comparing it to other areas, and that is not the way to go about it. But in any event, it is a, I don't know. I mean, it's a weird thing as he tries to both criticize the city and lift up the city at the same time. He's also been raising a stink about what's happening with the LADWP. He's pointing to some of these things that she sees as failures. I mean, it's interesting. I was just out at the Palisades yesterday for this interview that I did with Jamie Dimon for The Issue Is, and it is clear that the Army Corps of Engineers has done a really good job. I mean, a lot of the lots out there are cleared, and they say it's at a record pace, and they are moving fast. There are trucks, there's stuff happening all over the place. It looks very different than it did even a few weeks ago when I was out there. And this is something that the Trump administration is getting credit for. All of the Democrats are giving the president credit for that. It's something that a lot of folks are happy with Governor Newsom on, and even the city. So that aspect of it has been pretty good. The question is permitting, and the next aspect of rebuilding and going, frankly, through some of these California regulations that have been in place for so many years. What's that going to look like? We know that building in California is tough on a good day, and now multiply that by 7,000 people that are out of their homes trying to all do it at the same time. And you've got a massive challenge that the government has never had before.
What was Jamie Dimon's take on the rebuilding effort in the Palisades when it comes to things like permitting?
Yeah, I mean, he thinks that it's, the permitting is bad. he used a phrase, which I hadn't heard before, which is already starting to go viral online. He said, it shouldn't be called red tape. It should be called blue tape because it's all the Democrats that are creating it. So, I think he walks the streets with Rick Caruso. So you're getting a very Caruso-like response on Palisades. The two of them are close. They've been working on these issues for a while. This is the kind of person when Rick Caruso says he's calling business leaders for advice and trying to get them involved. Jamie Dimon, head of the biggest bank in the country, is one of those people that Rick Caruso calls and has known for a long time. So I think he's got a similar philosophy there of, let's have business take the lead on a lot of this stuff. Let's try to take away some of these regulations. But he also saw, progress in some of the rebuilding. And that, his company has been a part of that too. I mean, they've donated multi-million dollars to the rebuilding effort, and they're rebuilding their branch as we speak in Pacific Palisades.
Now, I watched your interview with Rick Caruso that's also going to air on The Issue Is. And, of course, you can always see the full versions of some of these interviews that Elex Michaelson does on his YouTube channel, Elex Michaelson. I use that for show prep every single day. You asked Rick Caruso a very interesting way to ask him if he's running for mayor. You didn't ask him directly if he's running for mayor, if he's running for governor, but you asked him what all the people at the conference are telling him. And I don't think I've ever heard him say what he said to you, which was where he usually just deflects and says, it's not on my mind, I'm not thinking about it. He gave you a very Kamala-esque answer of he's going to make a decision at the end of the summer.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense that the two of them are on parallel tracks because each other's decision could impact the other. I mean, I think what Kamala Harris decides in terms of whether to run for governor or run for president, and it's going to be one of those two. She's now, from my reporting, is not at the point where she's not running for anything. She's going to run for one of those two things. And I think that does impact Rick Caruso's decision because that has a huge impact on the governor's race. I mean, look, I think knowing both Kamala Harris and Rick Caruso fairly well over the years and getting a sense of where their heads are at, I think that Kamala Harris's heart is to run for president. That's what she actually wants to do. And that's what she's been focused on her whole life. I think Rick Caruso's heart is to run for mayor. He's been thinking about these issues. He's lived in Los Angeles his whole life. I think it would be sweet for him to be able to defeat Karen Bass after last time. And I think that, and I don't think he wants to live in Sacramento. Neither of them do. That being said, their consultants who are in California are urging both of them to run for governor, both making the case that they would have a better chance of winning if they ran for governor, both talking about the power of the job of being governor. But I don't know if they actually really, really at their core want to be California governor. And whoever does run, I just hope that that person, or whoever does win, I should say, really wants to be governor, because that's a big, complicated, hard, important job, and we need somebody that's 100% in on solving the state's problems. But that's my sense of where they're at. And the answer to the question that I asked Rick, what are people telling you? And he said, people are telling me both. And I think that's true. I think there are people every day who are calling Rick and saying to him, you should run for mayor. But I also think there are people that say, we need you in the state, you should run for governor. And there's obviously a lot more people that live in the state, even in our media market, who would all be represented by Caruso if he was governor as compared to the city of Los Angeles, still a huge city with 4 million people. State of California has 40 million people.
We're speaking with Elex Michaelson. He's an anchor at Fox 11, hosts The Issue Is, which airs Friday nights on Fox 11 and Sundays on KTVU Fox 2. Now, a story that affects the Bay Area and Los Angeles was the shocking news this week that longtime SFPD Chief Bill Scott resigned his post in San Francisco, then immediately flew down to Los Angeles to appear at a press conference with LA Metro because he'll be appointed as the new chief for the LA Metro Community Transit Public Safety Department. I don't know why they're not calling it police. And he announced that he's going to try to hire 700 officers, which I don't know how you get to the how of that in a place where you have shortages in every single police department and hiring challenges everywhere. There's bidding wars when officers graduate from academies. So you're obviously going to have to poach from existing departments or lower the standards. And there's also the question of why. What exactly would the difference be between a Metro public safety police officer and the current people patrolling the system, which is LAPD, Long Beach PD, and the Sheriff's Department?
Well, I think the answer to that part is that there's not a focus, because you have three different agencies that are sometimes working with each other, but sometimes have different regulations. Their main interest is not Metro. Their main interest is their areas. It's just part of it. That if you have somebody that their whole focus, their whole idea, their whole training, their whole thinking is all about Metro, that they might do a better job, and that they might take that more seriously, and you could hold them accountable. I mean, part of the problem when you have three different agencies is everybody points the finger at each other. And so if you have one that's in charge, that could actually be a good thing. The concept of it, I think, makes sense. The question is, in terms of the specifics of what you're talking about, is a real challenge, especially at a time when the county is also in a huge budget deficit. And part of the reason that both the city and the county are in these huge deficits is lawsuits. They're paying out these huge liabilities because so many people have sued the county and the city, and they've done so many things wrong over the years that they're paying. I mean, the county's paying billions of dollars in lawsuits, in settlements. And because of that, they're in a huge hole. And so hopefully they start doing things better so they don't get sued as much. But that's part of the challenge with all this as well.
Elex Michaelson, last question before you go. I got to get your take on everything that happened in the Assembly in the last week, where you had new Assemblywoman, former prosecutor Maggie Krell, introducing a bill that would make it an automatic felony to purchase minors 16 and 17 for sex. The Assembly Public Safety Chair Committee, Nick Schultz of Glendale, kills the bill. The Republicans force it to the floor. They decide to take Maggie Krell off the bill. Outrage ensues, and now they reverse course and say, okay, never mind, we're doing it. What do you make of what happened this week?
I think it's embarrassing, and I think it reveals the danger of one-party rule, whether that's one-party Democratic rule or one-party Republican rule. Supermajorities as a concept are probably not very healthy. And there needs to be people pushing back and having an exchange of ideas. I mean, this thing was so outrageous that even in a supermajority, they got overruled. But I think the Democratic Party, just from a political perspective, needs to realize some of the optics of what's happening here. And if they don't, they may not be a supermajority much longer. I mean, it doesn't mean the Republicans are going to win over everything, but they can start picking away at things like this. And this is an issue that is so personal for people. This cuts through in a way that very few things do. People want to protect their children, and that's something that people understand as a concept.
Elex Michaelson, tell us what we're going to see on The Issue Is tonight and Sunday on KTVU.
So we've got Jamie Dimon, the leader of the biggest bank in the world, the country, I should say, sitting down with us in the Pacific Palisades, an exclusive interview. First time he's done a local interview in California in almost a decade. We're talking about Trump's tariffs. We're talking about the rebuilding. We're talking about cutting through red tape, or as he calls it, blue tape. We talk about leadership lessons. We talk about Hollywood and tariffs and the future of that industry. So all that with Jamie Dimon tonight on a very special edition of The Issue Is. At 10:30 in Los Angeles, and Sunday morning at 5:30 a.m. on KTVU.
Elex Michaelson, you can follow him on Twitter at Elex_Michaelson. Thank you so much for coming on, and a personal thanks from me to you for putting up those full-length interviews on the YouTube. That does me a whole lot of help.
Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I think we just went over like 18 different things I've worked on this week. So now I feel tired just layering, thinking about all of it. But I appreciate it, Randy, and thanks for all the support of our shows.
Thanks so much, Elex. That's Elex Michaelson, everyone. If you'd like to email us, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Patrick writes in, hey, Randy, I wrote John last year to ask if he could do a special shout-out to let people know that tomorrow, Saturday the 10th, is the National Letter Carriers National Food Drive. So here's what happens. If you have a whole bunch of non-perishables that are just sitting in your pantry and you'd like to help out, put them in a grocery bag and put them out by your mailbox, and a letter carrier will pick it up and it will go to a food bank. So help out the Letter Carriers National Food Drive tomorrow. Anything for you, Patrick. And we love all the letter carriers. Really do. Hey, look at this, everyone. 790 KABC welcomes Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass at the Dolby Theater on November 14th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing. Johnny is back on Monday. It's Randy Wang here. The phone number, if you'd like to join us, is 800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. Gavin Newsom has been doing some really, really weird things lately when it comes to his defense of the California high-speed rail, a project that is still many years away from completion, if it ever finishes, ever. And Gavin Newsom has decided that he's going to lean in to the California high-speed rail, and he is going to now start comparing the California high-speed rail to a high-speed rail project in Texas. Let's just do a little reset here. California's high-speed rail was voted on in 2008, promising with a $30 billion bond that we would be, well, it was a $10 billion bond and then $30 billion total from other funding. We would have a fully functional running train from Los Angeles to San Francisco by 2020. It is 2025. There is no train. They're just now starting to build the test track for the Wasco to Merced part of the train. There are no funding plans for LA to San Francisco, let alone Sacramento to San Diego, which was originally envisioned as phase 2. Well, apparently Texas also has a high-speed rail project. I think this is much more recent, but they want to have a train that goes from Dallas to Houston because I guess no one wants to ride Southwest anymore after they took away bags fly free. So Gavin Newsom posted this graphic on his Instagram account and his Twitter account. California high-speed rail leaves Texas in the dust. Our high-speed rail is 494 miles from San Francisco to Los Angeles and Anaheim via the Central Valley. It doesn't exist. Theirs is 240 miles. That's going to go from Dallas to Houston via the Brazos Valley. Again, it doesn't. I don't think that one exists yet. And their project, he says, hasn't even started. And it has no opening date, and 0 jobs have been reported. Meanwhile, California's high-speed rail, 171 miles are being developed, 119 miles being built, 50 structures built, in the last 15 years. Let alone that even before the ballot measure, the High-Speed Rail Authority goes all the way back to the 90s. I believe Pete Wilson started that. And the conversation about high-speed rail goes back to the 80s. And high-speed rail is technology that goes back to the 60s. Because that is where Japan built theirs in 5 years. Early operating segment opens in 2030 to 2033. Yeah, good luck with that. And the early operating segment goes from nowhere to nowhere. What exactly is the benefit to California's economy of being able to take a train from north of Bakersfield, Wasco, which is notable for having a prison, to Merced, which is notable for UC Merced? What exactly is the function here? And, of course, he puts on the bottom 15,000 jobs. You have people like Dave Cortese going on interviews saying, hey, you got to think of this not so much as a train anymore, but as a stimulus package and a jobs program. Well, I happen to follow the California High-Speed Rail Authority on YouTube, just like I follow every single social media account for every politician, every channel on YouTube for every local news channel. This is how I stay informed. And I get a little blue dot every time one of these channels updates with a new video. And sometimes it's a board meeting where they're discussing a budget. But other times it is straight up taxpayer-funded propaganda videos. And they posted one today. This is the high-speed rail propaganda video. Let me see if I can figure out what this is called. So let me go through my YouTube, and then I got to scroll through. I am subscribed to maybe 300 or 400 channels. Now, they're not all about local politics. Some of them are about video games. Some of them are about music. But for the most part, most of them are about California news. So the California High-Speed Rail Authority puts out this video called Sustainability, Equity, and Innovation took center stage at the 2025 SDSU Sustainability Summit. Okay, let's find out what this is, who filmed it, and why our tax dollars are going towards it.
Students, staff, faculty, alumni, and community members made their way to San Diego State University for the 3rd Annual Sustainability Summit.
Okay, who produced this? This is where your money's going. This is one of those jobs that's been created by high-speed rail. Someone to shoot this video, to edit this video, and someone to voice over this video. Those are 3 jobs that have nothing to do with building a train that doesn't exist.
We're trying to address the issue caused by renewable energy technology.
It's an opportunity for graduate students like Mauricio Salazar to discuss research to reduce Earth's carbon footprint.
Most of the time, renewable energy technology relies on the mining of critical minerals such as rare earth elements and other metals of high value. We're trying to look for an alternative using a biological approach to acquire these metals.
Oh, boy. That means more corn oil.
The summit also features alternatives to California's biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions.
We know transportation is our largest source of emission, both in the city and at SDSU. So it's really important to be talking about zero waste and clean energy and also transportation.
Transportation? Oh, boy. I think we're going to start talking about trains that don't exist. Hey, fun fact. Did you know that the reason they started this thing in Fresno was because the Obama administration made it part of the grant that they gave the state that, hey, you need to start this in a disadvantaged community that has high rates of asthma. So don't start this thing from San Francisco to San Jose and expand from there. Don't start this thing by figuring out how to connect Southern California to the Central Valley. Start this thing in the middle and go out. Thank you, Obama.
From Bakersfield.
LaDonna DiCamillo, the Southern California Regional Director for the California High-Speed Rail Authority,
There's another one of those 15,000 jobs.
talks about progress on the Central Valley High-Speed Rail test track slated to run from Merced to Bakersfield.
Actually, it's Wasco. It's not Bakersfield. Wasco is north of Bakersfield. In fact, I think if I'm correct, the last time I drove up through the 5 freeway, you have to take the 5 to get to Wasco, and the 99 goes to Bakersfield. So you got to go quite a distance to get to Bakersfield. This train goes to nowhere.
Renewable.
What is this? Okay, obviously, whoever edited this video, one of our 15,000 jobs for the High-Speed Rail Authority, someone wants to be a DJ.
Renewable energy will power electric high-speed trains.
When? When this technology becomes completely obsolete? Okay, this guy really wanted to become a DJ.
Eventually, they'll run from San Francisco to Los Angeles and Anaheim.
No, it won't. Oh, now Anaheim? Where's the high-speed track that's going to go from L.A. to Anaheim? I'd love to see that. I don't even think they've even thought about that yet. But sure, let's just say things pie in the sky. Let's start trashing Texas because they also are building a high-speed rail line. Gavin loves to go after Texas, and I don't really understand it. Outside of, I don't know, jealousy? Texas does a lot of things better than California. Texas also does some things that are completely insane, like their liquor laws. And you can't go to a car dealership on a Sunday. But it's a lot cheaper to live in Texas, some parts of Texas. Believe you me, there are some parts of Dallas that are way more expensive than some of the most expensive parts of L.A.
Phase 2 will extend tracks even farther.
We do have plans in Phase 2 to connect San Diego all the way with Sacramento.
Yeah, when's that? When exactly is this happening? And how many greenhouse gases have we saved in all the use of this non-existent train? How much is this train going to cost? Nobody knows.
So excited to share that with the students as well. Sustainability option, something other than freeways.
Every single one of these SDSU students will have graduated, moved out of the state, and raised their family to the point where their kids are now going to college in probably Texas before this train finishes.
So they'll be able to ride our trains across the state of California.
No, they won't.
Some of the areas, the train will be going underground, and some will be above ground.
Yeah, and they haven't actually figured out how they're going to do the whole Tehachapi Mountains part, because the grading would have to be so high you cannot safely operate a train when it's going up that much grade. Do you tunnel through those mountains at the San Andreas Fault? I don't think we do that. It'll be like the plot of Superman 1.
Summit participants talked one-on-one with authority staff.
You can see it.
Okay, here we go. The propaganda video is now going to talk to eager students at SDSU that love high-speed rail. You know, this is one of those issues. It's not a 50-50 thing. This isn't even a party line thing. I can't find anybody of any party, anecdotally in my life, that thinks this thing is ever going to be done.
Summit participants talked one-on-one with authority staff.
You can see it there from Merced to Bakersfield.
University employee Jennifer McDougall likes what she hears.
So you know how we've discussed that cap and trade fees, which are one of the reasons that your gas prices are so high, directly funds the high-speed rail every year? Every time you go to the pump and you pay more than any other state, you're paying for this kind of propaganda.
University employee Jennifer McDougall likes what she hears.
I'm glad to see.
What was the purpose of this? It's not like they're using this as advertising. They produced this to put up on their own YouTube channel. And this video so far has 200 views. Most of those are me.
I'm glad to see that there's progress being made, that you have your first.
There is no progress.
I'm glad to see that there's progress being made, that you have your first track in the mix. And I love that she said that 15,000 jobs were created in that area.
There you go. You wanted proof that this is a propaganda video? The random employee shouts out that, hey, you've created 15,000 jobs.
I'm glad to see that there's progress being made, that you have your first track in the mix. And I love that she said that 15,000 jobs were created in that area. And Merced, Bakersfield, that's an area that definitely needs this work.
We got to keep this going just to keep a whole bunch of people employed, whether there's a purpose to it or not.
Work.
From San Francisco all the way to Anaheim.
It's not going to go from San Francisco to Anaheim. Not in my lifetime. And I'm a young man.
High-speed rail is California's future.
It's going to be all electrified.
Oh, that's a really cool project.
Oh, it's a really cool project. Okay. Is it possible that some of the jobs they created are people that they paid to say these things? Because I can't imagine any SDSU student believing this.
It's going to be all electrified.
Oh, that's a really cool project.
It is.
That's a really cool project.
Organizers hope attendees learn what they can do at school, work, and home to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and get cleaner air. For more information,
like in San Diego, how all the gas emissions are now coming from people trying to find parking because parking is impossible in San Diego.
For more information on the California High-Speed Rail Project, check out buildhsr.com and hsr.ca.gov.
There you go, a straight-up 3-minute propaganda film paid for by your tax dollars. The entire crew that put that video together, those are some of the 15,000 jobs that Gavin Newsom is trying to braggadocious himself over Texas for. Great job. Johnny's back on Monday. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Chris from Healdsburg writes in, hey, Randy, Wasco is also known as the Rose Capital of the world, not just a prison. Thanks so much, Chris. And by the way, Healdsburg is one of the most beautiful places in the entire state of California. A couple of years ago, my wife and I did a Russian River trip where we went to a whole bunch of places in Sonoma County. We stayed in Forestville. We went to Guerneville. We did Sebastopol and did some wine tasting there. And we walked and did a little bar hopping in Healdsburg. That is a fun place. Will writes in and says, we have to accept the fact that Newsom at best is a 1-hour-a-week job governor as California's chief lib loser. He's a full-time failure and an idiot who's too stupid to know that he's an idiot. If he weren't such a scumbag, I'd feel sorry for him. Like occasionally I feel bad for a junkie bum yelling at the sky, even though the bum is the one that decided to take his first hit. Well, thank you, Will. John writes in, yep, Wasco is 30 minutes from Highway 99, an additional 15 miles to Bakersfield. Once you step off this overpriced train in Wasco, how do you get anywhere from there? And the Tehachapi Loop is impossible. Nick writes in, it says, Gavin Newsom is such a mean girl. He goes after Texas the same way a teenage girl goes after someone when their friend makes a new friend. Many Californians have moved to Texas, and he's not emotionally mature enough to reflect on himself, so he attacks Texas. Yeah, did you see Gavin Newsom put up a California facts website, and he's trying to dispute the fact that people are fleeing the state? And he's like, no, actually, population's going up. Population is going up when you take into account migration, both legal and illegal. But you have a whole lot of born and raised Californians that are leaving the state for places like Texas, like Arizona, like Nevada, whole bunch of places, whole bunch of people, a lot of people going to Tennessee. And they wouldn't leave here unless there was a compelling reason to, whether it's crime or the cost of living, homelessness, you name it. It's really hard to say no to the incredible climate that we have here in California, both Southern California and Northern California. People from all over the world wish that they had our weather. So if people are actively fleeing to a place like Texas, and I love Texas, but I also don't understand humidity, and I think it's the most awful thing that's ever been created. So if people are giving up this climate for humid Texas summers, that says a lot about the failures of the state of California. Could also just be that the barbecue and the Tex-Mex is fantastic. I've thought about moving to Texas specifically for the food.